So why don't we go ahead and get started while I'm sort of monitoring a few channels here. Why don't we start off, and I'm just going to so Eric and Alex know each other. And Steve and I, we used to like hang out on our front porch back in the day, like 1,000 years ago, in a galaxy far, far away. That just had another earthquake like a couple days ago. Poor Ridgecrest. Anyhow, and Alex was in my class at one point, and the guys in my class listened to the podcast episode, like the old one from both of you guys. So at least they have a little background in what you do or what you did at that point. Lots of things have changed, I think, since then. But why don't you give us just a little bit of background on who you are, maybe like just a thumbnail, who you are, how you got here, what you're doing. Like not literally how you got here in Zoom. That's not what
I could walk you through it.
Step 1, press power button.
Yeah.
I bet you've been doing lots of that for people.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. I'm Alex Huthmacher. If you guys heard the podcast, you guys know I'm a network consultant. I have my own business. I just do IT consulting for companies, agencies, that kind of thing. And I have been doing it for close to 12 years now. So just over 12 years, probably.
Is that all?
Maybe 13.
Right, how old? You're 32, right?
Don't make me do math on Zoom.
I know, I hate that.
Yeah.
You gotta take your socks off. So since you were about 20, 19, 20?
I'm 31 now, so I started probably when I was about 18. So.
Oh yeah,
years.
you're only 31 because Kim's 30. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he started when he was about 18. And what kind of stuff do you do now?
So now I mostly do a lot of architecture and design for large scale networks, but I don't shy away from still deploying hardware and doing configurations and all sorts of stuff just to help connect computers together and people to servers and.
Huh? Do you want a grilled cheese?
And I want a grilled cheese for sure.
I know Ivan's mom makes good grilled cheese.
Yeah. And, yeah, but now I run my own business. I don't work for anybody. I just have some contracts that I do that for. So.
Alrighty. And Eric, what do you do? I should spotlight you guys when you talk. Sorry.
Oh. All right.
That's the same reaction all the kids give us when we spotlight them in Zoom. They're like, whoa.
It's like, oh, hello.
Oh, hello. Sorry, Alex, I should have spotlighted you.
Yeah, I'm Eric. I grew up in the desert where Debbie mentions that we hung out on her back porch when she moved. She was living in the area for a short while. After high school, I went to UCLA for a few years and got a physics and math degree. Then I went back into Ridgecrest and got a job for the government. I didn't like that job. So after a few years, I went to education again. I went to UCI and then got a PhD in computer science. And shortly after that, via a recruiter reaching out to me on LinkedIn, I got a job at Google. And I've been there for the last 5 years, working in ads, which I don't particularly enjoy. But the software there is awesome.
What's your favorite part there about working there?
The people are really nice, but my favorite part is that they feed me.
Unless you're quarantined and then they lock you out of the building.
It's been really hard recently.
I feel like we need to send you a care package. You should come up and visit. We'll feed you. We always feed you. All right, good. Who else? Steve, are you actually there? I don't know if he's actually there or not.
Yes, I'm here. I'm just on mute. I'm lurking.
Well, since you're there, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
I have no idea why you would want me to introduce myself. Although I do use a lot of technology for what we do. My background is physics, so I like to build things. I'm not a theoretical physicist. I'm an experimentalist. In every sense of the word, I experiment on everything. I experiment on my diet. I experiment on myself. I experiment on my health. I experiment on cars and trebuchets and electronics. And I have been known to try social experiments with teenagers and without IRB approval.
They're okay with it.
And I'm just curious. There's a real answer. I'm curious. And so, but since you guys are in a CIS program, I guess I should say that I use code for things when I want the computer to think for me, and it's worth the time to write the code for it. I have learned that it is not intelligent to write code for every single thing that I want to do in that regard. So I'm in the middle now. I'm not sure that means wisdom. I'm probably still oscillating, but yeah, it's fun. I'm a total geek like Eric and Alex when it comes to getting in over my head on something. If I stick my head in a program and I start working on it, I mean, I might not come up for air for 3 or 4 days.
I have a question for you, Steve.
Sure.
I got into a big debate just a couple days ago on building a trebuchet. Okay. And I heard you bring up trebuchet, you know. So could you explain to me the difference between a catapult and a trebuchet? Because the challenge was to create our own catapult that could launch at least 50 yards. But then we thought a trebuchet would be easier.
It depends on what you mean by easier.
We may or may not have a very large trebuchet in part.
I might have a trebuchet in my driveway with a swing arm that's about 15 to 20 feet long.
Oh, wow.
So basically a catapult is a spoon, rubber band, and a trebuchet is a string on the end of a stick with a sling on the end of the string. And so when you flick it,
Underweight?
Sorry, hold on, pen. Here, I got it in my pocket. Basically, here's
Legos. We need Legos.
you swing, right? And your string, as you swing this, your string flips around like this. And there's a point at which your one half of the string lets go. And the pocket that's holding whatever lets go of the thing, right? So it's more complicated to make it work. But it has a much higher velocity, typically.
Okay.
And if you're curious, I've got like a 25-page paper that some mathematician ran a bunch of calculations through Mathematica, and he gets all of the ratios for how to build like the highest efficiency trebuchet thing.
Oh, that would be interesting to go through.
And then there's several like simulators and stuff out there too. So.
Oh, great. Thanks for answering the question.
If we're going to do stuff with kids, we ought to do the real stuff. So we discovered things like you can fill up a Costco water bottle to 80 psi. It'll hold 80 psi. Like you can take a water bottle, literally this water bottle. I can drill a hole in the lid. I'll do this at home. You put a piece of tape on the inside. And then if you have a compressor with a little rubber tip blower piece, you stick it up to the hole and you can blow the water bottle up to about 80 psi. At about 120, somewhere between 100 and 120, it fails. And it's catastrophic. I mean, it's amazing. But if you're not wearing a welding shield or something to cover your face, there is serious possibilities, major injury, and since eyes are important. To give you an idea, when you pump this up to 80 psi and you twist, it'll leave a bruise on your palm. I'm not talking about the back of your hand, okay? Palms are really tough, okay? It'll leave Anyway, sorry.
Steve, I think you're wrong.
Continue on. I have way too much fun building.
Alex, we're just waiting for your kids to get old enough to come here and do some of this stuff.
See, he said you can fill it up to 80 psi, but then he later said you can fill it up to 120 psi. So,
okay, so
stop. I warned them that I might lose control of this conversation because you get Alex and Eric and Steve in a room. What I wanted to do was see if you guys would go around real quick and just introduce yourselves to our speakers, to our guests, so that they know. So Oscar, why don't you start? Who are you and what's your interest in computer stuff?
I'm Oscar Valadez, veteran, U.S. Army, trying out the school thing again, seeing how that's going. I guess as of technology goes, I just want, I'm just in this class so I could sell a comic book and get my business administration license, so I do like technology as of like creating trebuchets and, messing around with little doodads like that. I forgot which one of, I believe it was Eric that liked explosives too. So I guess as of technologies go, I was always into building stuff and I guess that part of the aspect. But as of like internet goes, it's all difficult for me and whatnot. So
I don't know. You just built a computer. You're doing.
Yeah, but building a computer is just like building your Legos. It's so easy. You plug and match.
And you keep showing up here, so you're getting that figured out.
Yeah.
Hey Steve, I just sent you a message. My computer's being a little buggy, so if you don't mind doing a backup recording, that would be great. Okay, who's next? Who wants to do a quick intro next? Go for it, Chris.
Sorry, I don't know why it was saying that I wasn't unmuted. Okay, I'm Chris, and this is my last class, basically that in calculus, before I go to Cal Poly Pomona starting next semester. So yay for me. But let's see, my interest in computers, started with Minecraft and things like that, and very basic modding stuff. So I've done a little bit of coding, not very much, but anyways. I'm currently deciding and figuring out what exactly I want to do. I'm going for business applications and computer administration in Cal Poly. So that's why I am here. And yeah, a few more questions for you guys later.
He's going to try to figure out how to join the Hacker Club remotely because they're not going to be on campus in the fall.
Yeah.
Hack in. Billy, how about you?
Hello, Billy Jack. I'm also a veteran Army, and this is my first semester back in school since I graduated high school about 15 years ago. Want to get back into education, and I'm taking this class because I want to follow technology because it's not going anywhere.
Very good.
Yeah.
Let's see who's next on my screen. Sam.
Hello. So my name is Sam. Eric and Alex know me at least a little bit. I am interested in just a lot of technology stuff. I've kind of been over the board programming like in different languages and stuff like that. I also like making videos and video editing and stuff like that as well. And I'm just trying to figure out, what I want to do, what things really kind of capture my interest and what I really want to pursue. But yeah, I don't know, I guess that's me.
That's Sam. Back to you, Sam. How about Ivan? How about you?
My name's Ivan. I'm just here visiting because Mrs. Curdy thought this would be interesting for me. I love technology, especially computers. I'm actually using the computer I built right here. So yeah.
Super cool. Adam.
Hello, my name is Adam. I know most of the people here. I don't actually know anybody in my mom's class, but I know everybody else. I'm I am here to ask a few questions, see what you guys talk about. I'm interested in getting started more into coding.
Tyler, how about you?
Hi, I'm Tyler. I'll start my video for this. Okay, hey. I'm taking this class, honestly, because it's a requirement for my business degree. But it's been a very fun class. I really enjoy it. And by taking it, I hope to get just familiar with the whole computer thing, because I am going to use it in my career of marketing. So that's very helpful. And yeah, that's me.
Very cool. Thank you. Froylan, good to see you. I'm going to put you on the spot. You want to introduce yourself real quick? He's like, no. You have to unmute. All right, we'll come back to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Freud.
What's your interest in technology?
Mine initially, well, I like anything to do with computers, programming, everything.
Good.
Video games.
Glad you're here. Keaton, I think you're Keaton, and I think Cole already introduced himself a little bit. So Keaton, go ahead.
I was muted. Hey, my name is Keaton Morosco. I've played with computers very little. I was interested in the whole technical side as in paying attention to specs and stuff when I was in high school, because I was looking to buy my own computer. What I'm interested in, as of now, I'm trying to learn. It seems like the financials industry has been chasing me down for a long time, so I'm getting a taste of that. And just kind of the whole business idea, and kind of, I don't know, some sort of leadership. I'm getting into it. I don't know how to put words to that. Just a feeling it, it's a thing. Wait, I'm from North Carolina, so usually you hear me say the word y'all, but now that I live in California, I'm gonna say dude.
I was waiting for that. Figuring out the various intonations of dude.
Dude.
Good job. Okay, so pretty much what I want to do is I told Eric and Alex I'm not going to make them give like a speech or anything. They kind of did their intro. This is an AMA, and Steve's here, and actually Cole works in IT, and so there's people here to ask your questions to. So if you want to ask a question, just go ahead, or you could type it in chat if you want, and we'll just go from there. Like, you can address it to somebody specific, or you can just throw it out there. Either way.
Great. Do you mind if I ask then? Okay. Sorry. Okay. So Eric and Alex, of course, I've listened to your podcasts, and I know you're a lot further in your careers now than you were however many years ago when you did that. I'm at the very beginning point of my own career, and starting to learn, and then after that specialize. But I'm currently going through CompTIA A+. My plan is to take CompTIA Networking after that. I know that both of you guys have said that learning by doing is great. I mean, certificates are good, but learning by doing is of course the most important thing, because just because you have that piece of paper doesn't mean you know anything, really. So I wanted to understand or see what would be the best way for you for you now, looking back, if you were telling yourself this 20 years ago or 10 years ago, however long, where would you start? First of all, learning the basics, so maybe coding, networking, because there's these little pieces of the pie that come together, and then just so you could understand the basics, and then have that foundation to move into your own specialty, or to move into something you enjoy more.
Who should go first?
Whoever has the highest education.
Okay. Point against that, it is not worth going to school, because it is a lost opportunity cost on salary in the real world. keep that in mind. It's nice if you can get your employer to pay for the higher education, specifically in masters. They like doing that one. How would I start though? Today there are a lot more opportunities to start that didn't exist when I was starting out. So I first learned to program when I was in high school by reading books and playing on the computer. Now those books are available online, and you can even take courses online like Coursera, Udemy, or even Khan Academy. So that is where I would start out. You can, for example, there's a guy whose name slips my mind, so I'll put it in the chat later, who did MIT's course in their open courseware. So he gave himself MIT's 4-year curriculum on computer science, minus all the general ed. So just the computer classes, he did that in 1 year, which is pretty impressive.
1 year.
That's the kind of place I would start.
Yeah, I think I'd kind of jump on that same board that, you know, being self-taught is going to bring a lot more value to, you know, whatever job you're seeking, because during the interview process, they're going to grill you on practical applications. But it also depends on like what you're trying to do. If you're trying to go after like a giant company like Google or Facebook or whatever, you have to be ultra competitive with what you know and how, you know, the complex problems you have to solve. But if you want to get a job where you can pay the bills and focus on your hobbies, then you could pursue something in government. That always like, you know, an IT job in government. And that would be a whole different career path. You wouldn't want to like, you know, become a super expert at coding. You'd want to be able to knock out those requirements, which they usually focus on like degrees and that kind of thing. And then, you know, you get a job that pays the bills and then do your side thing, which you enjoy more. Yeah, I think looking back, if I were to tell myself, because I knew I wanted to be in computer science or I wanted to be in IT, and I'm hard in IT. I'm not in programming. I'm not in application development. So
specifically networking, if you don't mind me interrupting, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Networking, network architecture. So like I do everything, you know, from load balancers, switches, routers, firewalls, you name it. If it's on the network, I have to make sure it connects. And, you know, connections with the cloud, building cloud architecture, that kind of thing. And looking back, if I had focused more on scripting, it would have given me a huge leg up in the IT field. And scripting is a whole lot different than programming. So if you can become a really good scripter and become hard into more of a DevOps role as opposed to like a straight IT role, that's what I would have focused on a little bit more.
So in regard to the role that Alex plays at companies, Google has that officially designated as site reliability engineer, and they do no programming specifically because they write a ton of scripts.
So you had to know both.
Access to, I can't post a group-wide chat. It's only giving me a selection to message Debbie specifically.
You should be able, let me check something.
I can't either.
Hold on, I gotta fix it. Everyone, there we go. Sorry, I'm just gonna make you and Alex co-host. Don't do anything dangerous.
So
don't let it corrupt you. Later corrupted me.
Don't let the power go to your head. Sorry about that. Okay, so what is this, Eric?
That's the MIT challenge, where this person decided to educate themselves using MIT's open courseware.
A year.
It's not the same as having a credential, right? If the credential is important because people on LinkedIn are searching for those. So if you get a network certification or a degree in something, then you're going to hit the LinkedIn searches. Otherwise, your way in is to have a job somewhere else.
Yep.
You have to have both, really. And if you could pick, and I guess for Alex, this is just going off that. I don't want to take up too much time here, but Alex specifically, you didn't even finish an associate's degree, right? But you were working previously with people who were doing, who were masters, right? Or had masters or PhDs, right?
PhDs, yeah. for a moment there, for about, I think, a year, I worked at Sandia National Laboratories in Livermore, and like to become an employee there, you almost have to have a PhD. And I was a contractor. So, as a contractor coming in, like I didn't have that requirement, but I passed the interview no problem. So, even though we were all doing IT, a lot of them were PhDs in science and math and all sorts of stuff. So, but I was, surrounded by 8 PhDs, and I was the only one there with no degree. And,
cool.
But I did go back and finish. I got an online degree, I think a year ago. I got my bachelor's. I finished it. So.
There was quite a long period of time, though, that whenever I talked to Alex, I'd be like, so are you going to finish up your associates? Because I'm a college professor, right? I couldn't tell him why that would be a good idea because he was making way more money than I was. But, it was just a thing, like, have you finished yet? But what did you end up getting? You did just finish up a year or so ago. What did you end up with?
I got a bachelor's in IT security.
So why did you do that? Like, why that then?
Well, I got all these certifications, and I found a college that would honor the certifications as credits. So it knocked out like probably a year and a half worth of work. And I was like, okay. It was also super affordable, but it's still fully accredited. So I was like, okay, this sounds worth it. So, I just worked nights and weekends and did it while I was working, and it was okay. I had to ignore the family for a year or so, but other than that, it's fine.
You had a server room set up in your spare bedroom.
Oh yeah.
All right. Who else has questions?
Thank you, guys.
And you can pop the questions into chat. Like, so Chris, if you have more that you want to think of and you want to just throw them into chat, that's fine too.
Can I go off the accreditation kind of stuff or the credentials? Because you guys say that the practical experience is very useful, and sometimes even more useful than that piece of paper saying that you have that knowledge. How do you balance the two? Because as you guys said that, they are searching for key terms. So how do you get yourself in the position to prove yourself, to prove your worth? Because they are looking for those key terms.
Well, if you're
Mostly it's already having a job somewhere.
Yeah. Well, or having someone that that works at a place that you want to work.
Okay.
Yeah. Having a referral, especially for the big companies, it puts you at the top of the list when it comes to the interview process usually. Puts you at the top of the list of the other people that also have referrals. So
just kind of utilize, the social networking within your area of expertise.
Right. And download an app called Bind.
Bind. Okay.
BIND.
Yeah. It's like the FANG's social media where, beware, there are some weird people on that. It's weird discussions that happen on that app, but there is also a lot of like, what kind of salary expectations can I have? How can I negotiate these with this particular company better? And it's people that are actually in the interview process, and then also people that actually work at the companies, reporting in. So, a lot of even like company-wide emails and stuff get leaked onto that app before anywhere else in the news and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you. That's useful.
If you find a link, Alex, throw it in chat also.
Yeah.
I looked it up real quick, but I came up with an insurance one, so it's not the right one, I don't think.
Yeah.
So Eric, I know you've talked about this too, just to kind of follow up on what was just said. What do you guys think the role is of networking? Like, so it's super easy for techies to sort of like huddle down and just code all day, with pizza and Pepsi, or sit in your basement or whatever. What do you think, how can you speak to the role of actually talking to real people and staying connected? Like, is that valuable?
Well, it's an incredibly valuable part of the job, and I hate that. It is not my favorite part. And my acknowledgement that I don't particularly enjoy talking to other people means that I'm not suited for management. Now, Alex is running his own business, so it's even more important for him to have ties to his clients and to find clients. So and he's been in a management position where he was telling other people how to get stuff done, or setting direction for them, or for the whole company. So I think Alex can say a lot more about that.
I kind of was in the same boat. I did have to change my my outlook on it through necessity, essentially. And once I took communication as seriously as I took learning technology, it did open up a lot of possibilities for me. So, you know, just like you study technology and that kind of thing, I also studied communication like on my own, just to figure out, okay, how can I speak better? How can I tell a story better? How can I just come up with ideas faster? And, you know, talking on the fly is, in a competitive world, can be a big advantage. And when you're in IT, especially, you know, everybody knows how to get it done. So, you know, if you can get your idea out there fast and articulate what you're trying to say, then, and articulating a technical solution is very, very difficult to other people. Like, and if you have that down, that alone can get you a job. If you could be the one guy that translates from the technical people to the management, that can be a job all on its own. And, you know, if you combine both worlds where you know both the technology and the communication, it helps out a lot.
Because then you don't have the clash of people who don't understand each other.
You always have that.
Well, I mean, you have a little
You
bit
minimize
less.
it.
Yeah.
Less.
So I've listened to the podcast where you talk about 3 different ways that, or what is it, the reading, the watching, and the actual experiencing of something when it comes to learning something. What interest? Well, I'm curious of the specific way that you learned communication, or like, how would you go back? Because I'm trying to learn how to become a master communicator. Do you have any like pro tips for that?
So there's like a lot of cliche advice out there, and you can take a lot of that and apply it. It's really hard, but you know, I did Toastmasters for a while just to get better at public speaking and learning like some of the tips and tricks that they would use. But also, like, there's a couple books that I read, like How to Win Friends and Influence People. That was a huge one. And then you, like, when you read it too, it's like you have to read it and then put it into application. And so it says that too. If you just practice on your family and your mom and your dad and then strangers and then, you know, things that you're not even interested in, if you can communicate things like that, you're going to have no problem communicating things that you are interested in. So.
Thank you.
I had the experience as a PhD student of teaching classes, starting as a TA and then acting as an instructor for a few. That gave me a lot of public speaking experience. So just telling others about things that you have learned is a great way of getting that experience.
Okay.
I also want to mention in my past experience, I was in a meeting one time at work, and my coworker had described something. I thought it was a good idea, and the managers did not like it. I re-described it, and then the managers thought it was a wonderful idea. He gave me a very puzzled look because it was the same thing as what he just said, but different words. And he thought I was stealing his thunder. In a way, I really was, but he had a good idea, and I wanted it done.
Did you use Google Translate for that?
Eric was Google Translate.
Eric was Google Translate.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that's like directly out of the How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think one of the things is get the other person to think it's their idea, that kind of thing. And
that is a really good book.
Yeah. So he got you to think it was your idea, and then.
Well, management thought it was my idea, but I was just relaying what I had just heard from my coworker.
Can I speak to Cole's question in the chat?
Yeah, Cole's got a couple of good questions in chat, actually.
So as far as imposter syndrome goes, I think everybody gets that once you reach a certain point, because you find yourself in a position where you know that there probably are other people who know how to do this better than you. And you wonder, like, why are they paying me for this? Are they going to keep paying me for this? Or, I mean, there's I mean, there's just a dozen different ways to, for that to present.
I do have a cure for imposter syndrome.
Jump ahead, Eric.
Yeah, doing interviews.
Yeah.
When you interview others, you figure out that they do not know what you know. And it's not just your experience with that particular one question.
Yeah,
You really don't know.
And the other thing is just do stuff. Honestly, the way you get good is to figure out how to push your way into situations that force you to learn in such a way that you don't exactly get into trouble. And it's okay if you get into a little bit of trouble. Just know like where the line is for terrible trouble. Okay, there are terrible trouble lines, and you don't want those. That's bad news. But a little bit of trouble, not a big deal. Everyone who does anything meaningful gets into a little bit of trouble. In fact, a friend of mine who does internet marketing and sales and other things like that basically says that until you have haters, you're not even really doing anything valuable.
I'm going to take a second because I saw that Daryl popped on. Hey, Daryl, do you have video or are you on phone? Can you hear me? Hopefully he'll connect audio in here soon. So Daryl's one of the professors. I think, Cole, you probably know Daryl, right? Yeah. So Daryl teaches all kinds of super cool things down in electronics. Like if you're interested in building computers or Arduino stuff, or, he does all that fun stuff down on the lower campus. So hopefully he'll check in here pretty quick. Cole, you had another first question though before the imposter syndrome one. You want to ask that one? That was a good one.
Yeah, so I just want to know, like, what was the most useful thing that you guys learned on the job? That one key information that was like, you just solved it, Like, I know how to do better, or at least, carry out your duties in a more efficient way, or even if it just goes back to that confidence thing.
Well, I know for me, like, having the knowledge that no matter how much I break something, I can fix it. Like that took me a long time to gain. But I remember telling myself, okay, I'm just going to try it because if I break it, I can fix it. Like that's when I know like that it gives me the confidence to just try everything essentially that comes to mind. Obviously it's a little bit different once you get higher up into IT and then you dealing with millions of dollars a minute kind of connectivity, but
a little more at stake than Lego robotics, right?
Yeah.
But we also want to design our systems so that they can break without being catastrophically expensive.
Yes. That's absolutely true. I mean, even today, I committed to deploying a VPN system that I've never touched before, and I got to do it in 2 weeks. And I'm 100% confident I can do it. Never looked at it before. But I'm 100% confident because I know the underlying technology really well. I know IPsec, I know crypto, so whatever it is, I'll figure it out.
The most important thing that I learned on the job is probably how important it is to communicate to other people. So that's, on the one hand, it's telling your teammates what you're working on or any trouble that you're getting into. Say you get stuck on a problem and they have knowledge that can help you out. It's a good idea to talk to them, get that knowledge from them. It's a good idea to tell other people about issues you have faced because they probably also faced them and you can share tips for how to deal with it. For example, a new teammate of mine that doesn't know how to work with our system, she needed a slew of commands to use that would help her run the test environment. And she sent an email. I don't know how long she had worked on it before she got so stuck she sent an email. But I was able to provide a good list of commands because I happen to have them ready and I have used them. So the communication is important for helping people get unstuck and for sharing knowledge. It's really important on the business side too for setting project goals, figuring out why it's of business value. Because I could be programming stuff for 2 years And if it's not of value to the business, that's kind of bad. I trust my manager to give me things that are actually valuable to do.
Well, and it sounds like, so in academia, they have a name for that working by yourself thing. It's working in a silo, you know, and when students try to break out of the silo, they have a name for that.
It's cheating.
It's cheating. And one of the hardest things I have with my own students, especially in the beginning, is to kind of say, okay, you can collaborate, you're supposed to collaborate, you're supposed to connect. Like that for some people is a real mental roadblock to jump over because they've got 12 or more years of saying, don't do that, right? And so it's so valuable to collaborate. So there's a couple of questions. Hey, Tyler, do you want to ask your question?
So there's something that Eric said that I don't want to slip away, and I'm going to put this to Eric and Alex. When someone comes to you and asks you a question, what's your immediate opinion of them if it's an intelligent question? And what's your likelihood of answering the question?
Good question.
I get billed by the hour, so.
Alex, that doesn't count.
Yeah, okay. For people asking questions, I mean, I love it. I love communication. I love talking about technology. I love teaching people things. It's actually like a good opportunity for both of us. One of us to learn and one of us to see if we actually know it, and then and then we can collaborate on it. But even if they ask a stupid question, it does give you the quality of the question does give you a barometer of what type of answer you can give them too, right? I mean, it tells you how much they understand about the technology. So a lot of times in IT, a stupid question just means they don't specialize in whatever it is that they're asking about. So just try and bring it down to that level.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, you can tell by the question a little bit how much details to give in your answer.
Yeah.
Tech people tend to be over detailed generally in their answers.
So the basic thing is if you want to know something in technology, ask another tech person, and the probability of getting an intelligent answer and probably more than you asked for is high. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That is a very good way to make fast forward progress if you're stuck on something and other people have the answer.
But some questions that come to me are based on knowledge that I have about our product and how it was implemented. Anybody who doesn't know that is just ignorant of the details. They're not an idiot. Because our product is super weird and strange, and it has an implementation history that makes some of the things unpredictable. I happen to have been with the product long enough to know some of those things and even to have created them, which I regret in some cases. But those aren't stupid questions. They're just questions that they don't know about the details. Now the team is so large that people are moving a bunch of pieces and I can't keep up. So I also have a bunch of those questions about parts of the product I haven't worked on. They don't mean I'm an idiot at all, and they don't mean the other person's an idiot. Other questions are more about the technology itself. For example, the person who asked for help, I was able to give her a bunch of commands. My assumption there is that she knows kind of what they're going to be doing because of the technology around running them. That is, she may have run them on other products and other circumstances, so she knows what they do.
And just to touch on asking questions, having mentors that you can ask questions to is extremely valuable. So if you can build a personal relationship with someone that you know is significantly more well-read into whatever it is you're trying to learn, then having that personal relationship with them can help you ask dumb questions comfortably and, get the answers. And believe me, my best mentors have been the biggest jerks ever. To be honest, if you can take a beating, then they will teach you everything, brutally, but it'll happen. So
So I'm going to kind of put Sam and Keaton on the spot to see if they remember something that I know Steve has said a million times on this topic about when you're in a room, you should not be what? Remember?
The smartest person.
Smartest person, yeah.
You should never be the smartest person in a room.
Oof.
Right?
I'm the only person in this room.
Okay, well.
So you're also the dumbest person.
So you're both the smartest and dumbest.
There you go.
So, it's a compromise. Cancels out.
So we've got a couple of good questions in chat, but Daryl's got audio now. And Daryl, do you have video too, or just audio? Oh, you
I
have
have another question, but I'll wait.
Hold on. I'm trying to, because I want to introduce Daryl if we can get him in here.
Different ones here. I wanted to
Hello.
Hey, do you have video also, Daryl, or just audio?
No, I just have audio on this computer. We don't have those luxuries. I'm in the classroom at the college right now.
Gotcha. So I told them that you were a professor down on the lower campus and you do all kinds of cool stuff with electronics and Arduino and stuff.
Yeah, tonight I've been working on some Arduino stuff. I wrote a class in Java using the processing library. And I've got a ultrasonic ping sensor hooked up to an Arduino, and it's doing a strip recorder chart showing the distance from the ping sensor, or the ping sensor picking up. In fact, I could share it on the other computer. I still have it connected.
So if you have no idea what he just said, you should take his class. It's a lot of fun, and students really enjoy it.
The Arduino boards. Most of you guys have heard of the Arduinos, right?
We didn't get to do it, Daryl, because we went into quarantine, and so I didn't get to bring him to class like I normally do. I was very sad about that.
So, and I wish I had a camera. I could show you one. Well, you can find them on arduino.cc or whatever, but it's a little small, it doesn't run an operating system. It's a bare microcontroller with a, which you can load programs onto. But it has the input and output pins that you can connect to hook up to different sensors and lights and servos and motors, all kinds of things you can hook up to it. So I wrote a class in Java that I can use. I can call the class from another program, and it sets up a strip recorder chart, sort of like a EKG chart. And it's recording the distance from a ultrasonic ping sensor, which uses a high frequency audio to send out a pulse and listens for the echo. And it times the duration of time it takes for the sound to get to the object and back. And then it sends a pulse to the Arduino microcontroller, and the Arduino measures that pulse duration. And then you can calculate the time it took, the distance based on the time it took for the sound to travel.
So Daryl, is this a project just for fun, or is this it's
part of a larger project. We have our electronics, solid state electronics class going. So it's part of a project to interface their projects that they're doing. They're building amplifiers with sensors. And so right now they have a temperature sensor, and they're amplifying the signal from it to make it stronger. And then we're taking that value into the Arduino and measuring it. But we're also doing the distance sensor.
Well, the reason I asked, so Daryl, the reason I ask is because I know you do a lot of this stuff for fun. And I know Eric does coding and stuff for fun sometimes. I know Alex does this stuff for fun, and Paul does stuff for fun, and Steve messes around with stuff for fun. I would bet Cole probably does mess around with some stuff for fun. And my observation is that people who code and play around with the tech for fun tend to go a lot farther because you just enjoy it, and you're just like, I wonder what happens.
You will learn it much quicker than it's something you don't enjoy, obviously.
Do me a favor, Daryl. We've got a couple of more questions coming down the pipeline, but can you put into chat what you have coming up? That some of these guys are my 101 students. So can you throw into chat what might be up ahead that they might look, if they're interested in some of this stuff, what they might register for?
Yes, I'll put a few of the classes that we have coming in the fall semester.
Perfect. Yeah, that'll be good. I try to send a lot of students down to Daryl because he's really a good teacher. So Tyler, you had a question. Are you still there with us?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and ask your question, because it was a good one.
Okay. First of all, before I ask my question, I want to say, even though I'm not all tech savvy and everything like everybody else here, it's still very interesting to listen to you guys, and I'm getting a lot of advice, not just about like that specific field, but just in general. So it's very helpful listening to you guys. And as you said, you can tell that the tech savvy people have those like really detailed questions, and mine is not. So I just want to know what tools you guys use when there is an issue in the security of a network.
So you mean like before there's an issue, or after there's an issue, or while
No,
there's an
like
issue?
kind of like after there's an issue. Like, how do you deal with it? How do you go about fixing it?
Well, I mean, one of the great things about networks is that they have, like, everything's recorded almost. Like, anything that happens on a network gets stored in a log somewhere, generally speaking. So we use logs a lot to identify, like, what actually happened and what, like, how did it happen? And then we can fix the issue based on the logs that are stored on the switches and the firewalls. Usually it could be like cinching down a firewall rule, which prevents people from getting into a network or leaving a network, or it could be improving our detections on the edge for 0-day attacks. So it's like we monitor users' behavior, like, oh, this person uses goes to these websites, but all of a sudden today they started going to China websites all day long and downloaded 100 gigs or uploaded 100 gigs. Well, that'll ping on an algorithm. It'll be like, hey, this user's doing something weird. And then we know, okay, that user's machine's been compromised, and we can shut them out or find whatever the problem is and remediate it. So we use a lot of tools, but especially on the networking side, to help detect when there's an issue and then stop the issue. And I'm sure Eric can talk about the many hours spent making sure applications are secure.
Yeah, but that's a very different issue than network security. So that's more about setting up who's allowed to call an API, what credential do they have to provide, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That was very interesting.
And as far as like a site-wide security process, I would recommend for all companies to have somewhere in their IT department people dedicated to doing that. And if possible, that they would write code that they install and have required to be installed on all devices on that network, so that they can monitor what's going on and shut things off if necessary. But it's also a good idea just to keep all the machines within a specific set of settings, so that engineers aren't doing really weird things.
Define really weird.
I'd rather not.
So Oscar, you had a question. I know Eric responded to it, but you want to throw it out there still and see what else other people say?
Oh, yeah. So my question basically goes over what is the education? What is education to you? And recently going to school, I'm kind of like Billy, being a veteran, going back to school for the first time since high school. And here I am using my GI Bill to pay for classes that I don't want to take, but I have to take in order to get a piece of paper that says, hey, you can, like, you're eligible for this. It almost seems like a scam to me, the whole education system. And I could see how it could bring students into student debt because they're taking classes they don't need to take. I want to sell, I want to sell products, comic books, hobby parts, paints. I don't see why I need to go down this road of watching primates on Animal Planet and doing a 10-page report on this. So I was curious. I heard that private colleges were the way to go. As for this, is there any other outlets you guys, kind of advice you can give me? I know Alex didn't get bachelor's in TEL just recently, which is pretty cool. I mean, he kind of avoided the whole process of school and then eventually getting it later.
Yeah, I mean, I waited till I could pay for college myself, essentially. and I paid as I went. I didn't take out any loans or anything like that. And I was in the same boat as you. It's like, why am I taking all of these classes that I am never going to use? And as you know, as I actually went through the rest of college and got my degree, I did learn that having experience in, like, just if you're writing a paper, think of it as you're improving your communication. Like, how can you uniquely form this idea that will catch someone's attention and then transfer knowledge from something that you researched into their head? And if you can take each step like that and approach it in that way, think, okay, this is helping me in some way, even though it may not be directly what I'm looking at doing. But you know, the reality is that the subject matters may not be applicable ever in your whole life. So I mean, but possibly the experience of doing the work might help you. And if you can take that approach mentally, like, okay, I'm going to take a positive attitude towards this and see how I can pull as much value out of this class that I think isn't helping me. If I'm going to purposely try and pull as much value out of it, then you might actually find yourself being better off at the end.
I want to buttress that point. It is an incredibly valuable skill to see opportunity where others see only misfortune and hardship. And in fact, my personal manager reminds me of things. If he gives me a task that I really don't want to do, he says, but look at it as an opportunity, right? And his ability to reframe it is what makes him a really good manager. I do want to remind you that if you are interested in sales, you are selling to primates. We're only semi-evolved monkeys here. Eddie Bernays laid out big plans on how to get our emotional reasoning systems to get us to make purchases. We're not logical beings.
That's very true.
Let me throw in something here on this topic, because in class we talk about this, but because of how we ran out of time a little bit, but I'll probably be one of the only college professors in your entire career that ever tells you you don't need to be here. I probably should have told you on the first day, right? But I wait till the end because it's more fun that way. But you really don't need to be here unless you know why you're here. Okay? If you, like, Alex went back to school because he knew why he was going. Like, he was tying something up and he got all the credit. He knew why he was there, right? Eric will tell you, he went through, like, he's got a terminal degree, which sounds so dramatic, right? But that's what they call it, right? You got a PhD. He's got a PhD.
Oh,
like,
it almost killed him.
You know,
yeah, they're pretty nearly terminal.
Yeah, they're pretty nearly terminal. But he wouldn't do that again.
No, I would not.
Because he didn't need it, right? So if you're in college, which is part of the final, that's that question. So I don't know if Eric and Alex know this. I give them that question as part of the final. And I tell them they'd probably rather have multiple choice. But part of the question, one of the questions is, what's the purpose of an education to you? Like, think through, take time to reflect, why are you here? And Oscar, if you don't know the answer to that, then maybe it's time to go just start a business and then come back when you need it.
I mean, I already have my business plan all laid out. You know, I kind of already have all the numbers and the charities I've been looking at to, you know, kind of what I want to build my business around. And I'm thinking, if I know, because I have a passion for comics and everything, you know, nerd or geek related, Dungeons and Dragons, I have a passion for this. So for me, if you come into my shop, I guarantee you would leave that shop with something, whether it be a pair of dice or something. It's just a passion. You don't teach somebody a passion for selling something they enjoy.
Yeah.
And here I am going to school to teach, they're going to teach me how to sell something I love. You know, or maybe I'm just going in with too much confidence, but I think confidence is the key to my trade.
Well, so then this might be a question to ask yourself, is why you're here.
Well, I'm going to throw a link in the chat. I did an interview with a gentleman named Dan Miller, and he has a fantastic book, which actually goes back to, I don't remember whose question it was, but basically, how do I go out and get past the gatekeepers. And he's got a whole book about that. It's called 48 Days to the Work You Love. He's got a whole section about how to get past gatekeepers. Because that's the number one problem people run into is their resume gets lost. And he basically sets out a system to skip all of that nonsense and talk to, to decision makers. And he's got tricks to get around that. But I had an interview with him about a different set of things. And the education that we get, like Debbie said, only matters as long as you're interested in it and you know why you're there. If you don't know why you're here, you're probably wasting your time. In the interview, he describes a young man who taught himself to do creative ironworks, and he did that for a couple of years, made good money, and then dropped the whole thing, decided he wanted to learn how to, program computers, and taught himself to do that in about 7 months, applied to IBM to a job that said 7 years experience required. And he beat out all the other competition and got hired by IBM with 7 months of studying. Okay. This tells you, because they were impressed not by his credentials, but by his work ethic and effort and other things. There are so many other things that are so much more important. And if you know what those things are, Eric and Alex will tell you the same thing. I mean, I wouldn't hire someone simply because they had a degree. I don't have enough money to pay people just, for a piece of paper. I want to know that they can do the job. That's where I'm going to put down the cash.
So Google doesn't hire because you have a degree. You've got to get through the interviews. It's a skills.
Can I add 2 cents to what you were saying, Steve?
Hold on a sec, Daryl. Eric was in the middle, and then you can go next, okay?
Okay.
No, I'm done.
Oh, well, say it again because there was a little bit of overlap there.
Google does not hire based on you having a degree. That might get you a foot in the door for interview, but the actual hiring decision is based on your performance in interview. It's a skills assessment. You can get through that without a degree.
Oh, go ahead, Daryl.
I was out at Armstrong Research Center at Edwards Air Force Base, and some of the engineers out there, the administrators out there, were telling us that they're more interested in seeing a portfolio and you demonstrating and showing projects that you've done in like computers or computer engineering, electronics, that kind of stuff, or science and physics. They'd rather see that than they would see degrees,
You might have met Sam's dad out there, Daryl. His dad's an engineer. What is it? He's a special engineer right now. He retired and they call him.
He's a special government employee right now.
Special government employee.
Yeah. It's kind of
I feel like he needs a fedora for that.
He does.
Right.
Just fedora, right? And
yeah, just have a montage.
he needs to hold a thing in his ear with a fedora.
Yeah, man.
Anyhow,
I
That's
think
funny.
there's a change in our industry to start looking for outside activities as a programmer. So that would mean your activity on GitHub or maybe a website that you ran or something like that.
So there's a couple of more questions I want to make sure we get to. And Ivan, I don't know if you have any questions. You can throw them in chat if you want. Adam had a question, and then Chris had another question. So Adam, why don't you go first?
I put up 2. Which one are you referring to?
Whichever one you'd like to ask.
So I'll put up this one again. You talked about scripting, Alex, being a good language to, well, not exactly coding language, but as a good thing to know. But if you're going specifically for a coding language, what would be the most useful to have for everything in general? Like,
Oh, well, I mean, you're never going to really find a one language fits all situations. Like Eric mentioned, Python is, first off, it's such an easy language to learn, and it's super flexible, and it's amazing for scripting, and a lot of the big companies use it. That's the one I would start with 100%. It's because I do mostly scripting. So for me, it's all about automation, efficiency, so, and a lot of the tools I use like Ansible and stuff are based on, use things like Python for, their commands and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I would definitely start with Python. I mean, almost hands down.
Okay.
Every time I want to run a loop in Bash, I have to look up the syntax. If I want to do it in Python, I already know what the syntax is. It's so easy to learn.
So I'm gonna be the naysayer on this. I'm gonna refer back to what Alex said. It depends. If you want to work with hardware, absolutely C, because nothing else has the flexibility. But even there, you have options. So I'm biased. I think you should know all languages a little, and then focus on one or two that you're good at to do things, because it helps you get your brain wrapped around how and why you do coding and why you would choose something versus another thing. There really are good reasons to choose Python to do something and not C, and vice versa.
Would you guys all say that if you learn one language, the basic, like it's easier to learn another one? Like the basic concepts sort of transfer?
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
I teach assembly language programming also.
Make some operating
Ooh,
systems.
that sounds.
So Alex and Eric, Daryl reminds me a little bit of Dominic, just to give you an idea. Because we had a friend of ours, one of the students that programmed in assembly, and he was just super cool. And
Yeah, that's what happens when you grow up as Dominic.
But I prefer Python as my first go-to language on most everything.
3 against
I
1.
do C programming on the Arduinos also, and now they have Python-enabled boards. Steve?
In Pies, you mean? Or I didn't hear that. Python-enabled boards and what?
Oh, okay. Adafruit sells a series of boards that you can plug into your PC, and it shows up as a external, like a flash drive, like a USB drive. You can copy your Python program to it, and it has the interpreter built in.
Ooh.
So you can run it on a single board computer.
So I kind of want to keep this till, I sort of want to cut it at about 8:30 for people that have, I don't know, calculus finals at 8 a.m. and stuff. Which should be
a little bit important.
Should be outlawed and evil to have any math, anything at 8 a.m. But there are a few more questions, including Chris. And Cole had a comment, and Ferlin, I don't know if you've got any questions, or Ivan, if you guys do, definitely toss them in chat so we can get to them. But Chris, you had a really kind of an interesting question.
Yeah, I'll verbalize it. I wanted to say more, but then typing it out was too. So, okay, question one, for you guys, and Alex and Eric and Steve and Professor Daryl. So first off, what do you think, what has already been automated in your guys' field, and what do you think is going to be? And then secondly, this is kind of more of a tangent, and I guess it's just a yes or no, really. But all of these coding languages and all the basic things that PCs are built on, which you guys have a much larger understanding than I will. I'm just going to generalize it like that.
There's a on the desk out there.
What?
Oh, go ahead.
I think he's talking to someone else.
Yeah, sorry. There was a book that I read, and it's Creatures, and it's about a coder who created a video game a while ago, and it was just on Jeff Bezos' book list, so I ended up reading it. But anyways, he stipulated that these programs, which started in the 50s and were developed for the military originally, for computers, very simple command lines and things like that, could never support, in his theory at least, a fully functioning like AI intelligence, such as a human would. So, yeah. So first, what's going to be automated in your field, or what already is and what will be, and then second, do you think that these structures, these programming structures, could support at some point in the current form, or somewhat modified, and AI, a fully functioning?
Well, I guess I could start. Everything in my field has been automated. Essentially. I mean, if it's in IT. Someone has written a script to do it for them. And to me, that's automation. I don't think there's ever like true AI. Like everything is just, when they talk about AI, it's just a bunch of if statements to me. But but
Eric's laughing up there.
yeah, but I think it's gonna eliminate most, like and that's what I've been planning on. I've been planning on AI eliminating most of the work that I do, and me be the one programming the AI. So I mean, that's like kind of what I'm heading towards in IT specifically. Yeah.
Cool.
So the reason Alex still has a job is because even if somebody had written a script that does most of what he needs done, it needs to be tailored for the environment that he's running in.
Yeah.
And a human's the only one that can handle that kind of complexity of tailoring an existing solution to a slightly different environment that it wasn't designed for. So I don't think Alex is going to run out of work anytime soon. Things that he would end up controlling are amenable to AI helping out are anomaly detection. So when the traffic is shifting in surprising ways, AI can detect that for him. AI can't make a decision about what to do, maybe. It can make simple decisions there, but it's up to humans to go and do investigative work on what is the right solution and why did it happen, and explain the story around it, and then turn that story into needs for the business or changes in procedure and policy. So he's not going to be out of a job anytime soon. In my case, I'm wondering the same kind of thing on the back end or even on the front end of an app. There are some things that you can do to automate generating the UI and whatnot, but this kind of stuff seems not amenable to AI because there's a lot of if-elses that need to be put in place for functionality. And maybe an AI could discover what those are, but that doesn't seem to be as efficient as a human who knows the tools just doing it.
So I'm going to plead not ignorance, but curiosity on this. So I've done some reading, as Alex and Eric probably have too. The only book I've read in the last probably, 5 or 7 years that's significantly different from business-wise. There's a lot of other books I read that are interesting, but is a book called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, and he talks about this idea, and he believes that we should look more towards cyborg solutions than AI solutions, and not basically the idea is computers are really good at hitting a huge amount of data super fast on a very specific task. Humans are really optimized the other way. We think a lot slower than a computer in that way, but it's because we're considering all of the other gazillions of possibilities of things that you could do or might do. And we're much better at a fuzzy problem than a computer is. Computers do not yet deal well with ambiguity, but we do. And so I think you're going to find, like he says, he suggests this in the book, that we spend time writing code to solve very specific problems, but then we try to make it easy for a human to interface with that so that a human can make a quick decision on something that a human's innately good at. And the computer does exactly what Alex is talking about. It sits out there and looks for weird triggers like, hey, this person, has downloaded, 5 megabytes a day for the last 300 days. And suddenly, they're at, 500 gigabytes. What is what happened? And when a human looks at that and says, oh, well, that person got a project 3 days ago and they had to do X. Okay. Or, oh my goodness, that person never does anything. That's a secretary. They don't download a bunch of stuff. So that doesn't make any sense. Let's send someone over to help them get their computer figured out or whatever. I mean, you don't know, right? It depends. But it's the cyborg solutions. Alex and Eric both said it's corroborated across a pretty broad spectrum of people in the field.
Computers and AI, AI is doing a much better job these days than it used to in handling ambiguous tasks. And a lot of the development there has been language and visual processing. I think the first applications are moderation, right? Making sure that pornographic images don't show up on Facebook, stuff like that. These are well-suited tasks for AI. It doesn't get it perfectly right. And when it falls into kind of a gray area, then a human intervenes. And Facebook does have employed many, many humans to do this. I feel very sorry for them and the images that they have to filter through. It's not a good job. But it's essential for the for the platform as a whole that somebody is doing that. Now, I want to call back to Google's AlphaGo that a few years beat Lee Sedol at a championship round with the game Go, which for many years people thought could not be automated at such a high level because it requires so many decision points and a very high level of abstract thinking in order to make reliable moves throughout the process of the game. AlphaGo trained based on playing itself many millions of times, right? So we can say that it played millions of hours worth of games. Lee Sedol is in his early 30s. He did not play that many games, yet he put up a damn good fight, right? They're nearly equally matched.
Massive data
And
sets.
that should tell you something about how good humans are at learning from very small amounts of data. We haven't cracked that yet in AI, but they're getting better.
No. And that's a very fascinating study, by the way. If you want to know more about it, is look at the AlphaGo platform and how it's evolved.
Eric, if you have a link to something about that, throw it in chat because that is super cool.
I don't.
Okay. So I want to do a group picture because that's what I like to do. So if Tyler and Oscar want to come back, I don't know if he has a computer with no camera too. So I don't know if he's back.
Yeah, my only source is dead now.
Oh, no. Got to plug her in. All right.
I forget every time.
That's okay. So if you guys don't like my moving up a little close to the camera, not like the little kids in our classes who move up so you can see their nostrils, not that close, but because we had these little kids that would just like zoom way in. It was a little freaky. But anyhow, this way I can show Paul, thanks Eric. This way I can show Paul that we actually did something tonight and justify my existence, I guess. So anyhow, smile you guys, thank you. Perfect. So I do want to wrap it up here in a few minutes, but I was thinking if there's no more questions, I don't know if there are, I don't think so. Thank you, Darryl.
Can I actually have one more quick one?
Go ahead. Go for it.
Just really quick. So I guess a short no answer, yes or no, but are there any fields that you guys see that you work with now, humans, that will be automated, or certain what you're saying is certain tasks will be, but the majority still falls to humans, right? In the tech field, pretty much.
I think fast food.
That's what I was going to say. Fast food. Yep.
I think
it'll
that's
no longer be the first job for for kids. That'll just be robots.
Manufacturing is becoming more and more automated.
Things that stocking, that kind of stuff.
Things that require that are very specific problem solving things.
Well, I think Eric sort of hit on it. Things that won't be impacted are things that require higher level thinking, I think.
Yeah.
Discernment. Yeah, it's a good question. Chris did his research projects on AI in the workforce, so he's been doing some reading for a couple months on that. So Alex and Eric, do you have any words of wisdom or final words, or I don't know, that sounds very final, terminal words? What would you like to leave these guys with? Like what thought? And Daryl, if you want to pop in, and maybe if Steve wants to pop in, anybody.
The only thing I can say is that if you like programming, then just do it a whole lot. Beyond that, the skill of reflecting on what you're doing is really important. So you can focus really hard on doing a thing and beat your head against the wall. Step back every once in a while. Ask yourself why you're doing it. Is it valuable? How could you do it a different way?
So sorry, I have to ask this question. When it comes to the beating your head on the wall, like my personal experience right now is that I am beating my head on the wall, and I can't say that I've done it for very long, or that it's been particularly not worth it, but I do fear that it's the wrong thing to beat my head on the wall for.
We just need to pad the walls for you.
Yeah, well, I think we need to do a little bit of swelling up there too.
And padded walls.
So kind of the question is, what do you say to choosing the thing? Like everybody's got like the individual story that's adding up to why they should do this thing, why they should go down this path. And I find myself struggling to choose the right one. What say you?
For that, I can supply only questions. Oh boy. Imagine what would be your dream life in 5 years? Now, it's not going to happen. That's not the point of the exercise. But imagine what you want out of life over the next 5 years. And that helps guide some of the decisions that you make today. It turns out next year you're a different person. And so you should do the exercise again and get slightly different answers. But the plan helps you guide. Maybe also asking the opposite question. Imagine all the things that you're bad at. How could you catastrophically fail over the next 5 years? And what would your life look like then? What are the things that are just terrible for you? So you're imagining an optimal world and a really bad one? Both of those are actually useful to know.
Okay.
Keenan and I have had similar conversations. I want to ask you to answer a slightly different question that is related to the question he's asking. How long in number of hours did it take you to get to the point where someone was willing to pay you for a skill?
You're asking Alex and Eric, right? Okay.
I was like,
Alex was a lot quicker at that one.
Yeah.
I know he put in a lot of hours though.
Yeah, I studied, I think 14 hours for my first real job and my first certification. I studied 14 hours roughly every day for about 60 days and got my CCNA, had enough knowledge to get a job. And I think that started at like $17 an hour. And that was at like 17, 18, probably 17. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get employment until 24 or something like that after I got a degree, and my dad helped me get the position.
So Alex took 14 times 60, which if you actually do the math is dreadfully close to 1,000 hours, which is half a year of a full-time job. All right.
I would venture to say that
Pressed it into 2 months because he busted a hump on it. All right.
But I would venture to say Eric put in a lot of time on learning to program, and
yeah, Eric just took a different way to do that.
he didn't walk in there with no skill. So
okay.
Anyhow, we're rounding up here on 8:30. That was a good question. Alex, do you have some final thoughts? Oh, let me just throw this in. I didn't pay Eric to say what he just said, by the way. I just told my students I gave them the gift of reflection for their final, but they'd probably rather have a multiple choice quiz because you don't get that. In academics, you always move forward and you almost never get a chance to look back. And so my final is all about reflecting. So thank you, Eric, for that unpaid endorsement.
I also added it to our last assignment at UCLA.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm teaching a course.
Oh, good. Oh, you need to come up here. We miss you. Yeah, you just need to come up here.
Yes, please do. We'll feed you.
All right.
I need to play you another game of chess.
So
I
I'm
want to
giving
hear Alex's last word.
giving Alex the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most meaningful thing I've learned recently is that your profession does not designate what your life is like. You don't have to, it's not like if you choose to do this job, that's who you are for your life. That could be just your job. And then your life is this other amazing thing that you do. It could just be a means to make money. You don't have to necessarily enjoy it. But if you can clock out and then do that amazing thing in the last 4 to 6 hours of the day, then that is still a worthy thing to do.
It's an ends to a means sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Daryl or Steve, do you want to pipe in with a word of wisdom here? And let me throw in a quick thing. So for you guys, if you want to save the chat, because there's a lot of good resources in it, down in the chat box, like where you type, there's a little thing with 3 dots that will give you the option to save the chat. I get it saved when I log out, but if you all want to save your own copy of the text file, at least on my screen, it's down where you type and it says file, and then there's 3 dots and you can click on save chat. Let me know if you don't get it and I'll just send you my copy. All right, Steve, Daryl.
Be curious, honestly. If you want to predict your future and your success or enjoyment out of life, curiosity is a very high predictor. If you want to know things, you'll probably learn them. And if you want to know them bad enough, you will work 14 hours a day for 60 days and, get a good job in 2 months. Or, fiddle around and learn to program and, dink around at the Navy for a while and then, eventually go through a couple of degrees and realize that you are really loving Google's food. Know how it's going to turn out.
It's good.
It is.
But you follow the curiosity. All right. I mean, and don't wait for the perfect thing to come along. Between Eric and Alex, they probably say the same thing. I mean, you just do the next thing that's nearby that sounds interesting and fun. If you wait for the perfect thing to come along, you'll be waiting your whole life. Just find the next thing that's interesting enough, to get your curiosity going and chase it.
All right. I concur.
And your attitude can make any situation pleasant or not pleasant. So even if it's something that you didn't think you would enjoy, if you take your attitude and make it a positive attitude while you're doing it, you may find out that it's worth doing. Yeah.
I think you spoke to that when you talked about, taking the classes you didn't think you wanted to take. There's something you can get out of everything. And so that's good.
When you're learning programming, there's side effects that are advantageous to that too, as far as getting critical thinking skills. You can be writing programs to make simple games and you're still learning programming that's applicable to other engineering. I've done like Conway's Game of Life in 3D in Python. It was awesome. And plotting it, displaying it.
I think I have a picture of that actually.
Oh yes, I did post it on your Discord, I think.
I'll do a really quick screen share and then we probably ought to wrap it up here.
Yeah, that's
what
it.
I love about Daryl is he just sends like random stuff that he does for fun. Like why, there's no reason to do this except for it was fun, right?
You gotta click on the play button. Click on the play button.
Let's see.
What's happening here?
Oh, I like Conway's game. of
Life.
That's so
Life
fun.
happening.
3D
Life is
Conway's
happening
game
right
of
now.
life, so each cell has 26 neighbors.
Is it like the same rules or is it like modified?
Go look it up. Conway's game.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know the rules for Conway's Game of Life, but I mean, like in the 3D version.
I'll send
Yeah,
you.
because it's 26 live neighbors or 26 neighbors, so they have different settings for, like
Yeah.
a dead cell can come alive if it has exactly 8 live neighbors, for example.
Interesting.
Is there a link you can put in the
Yeah,
chat
I'm
for
gonna
that?
stick it in chat. I'm gonna, Daryl, I'm just gonna copy what you typed to me,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and then it's got the link. So if you save the chat already, resave it. It'll just write over that. You know, he just does that for fun, right? That's cool. All right, can you guys give our guests a round of applause? There's almost nothing I enjoy more than having Eric and Alex and Daryl and Steve. And I wish Paul could have been here because he was doing some other stuff.
All the nerds.
Yes, yes, it's the nerd club. You know, I'm just a fly on the wall when they all get together.
We're just curious.
They're just curious. All right, so for my 101 class, deadline Sunday night at midnight.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Daryl.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good
You
night.
guys are all coming. Really appreciate it. It was very, very cool to learn from you guys.
Good luck tomorrow, Chris.
Thank you. All right. Good night, you
If
guys.
you need to connect with me this week, let me know. We can connect on stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Eric,
Thanks
we
again,
need
everyone.
Tomorrow I
Awesome.
get to go help General Atomics build a lab.
Like, hold on, Daryl. I want to hear that. And so you guys can log out if you need to log out. You can hang out if you want to hang out.
Bye, Eric.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
Alex. Bye, Cole.
Bye, Adam.
And bye, Daryl.
Bye, Adam.
Bye, Keaton.
Yeah, you're not gonna see him again.
Ever.
Nope.
This is the most social interaction I've gotten in like 3 months. So.
You should be one in the classes. Like you get a lot of
Oh
stuff.
my gosh.
I might just start taking
I like that
classes.
was the most social interaction I've had like for a long time. That was great.
That was fun.
Are we
And
still
hopefully-
recording?
Hopefully we're going to start up next week. We just got to get kids enrolled.
I feel like that's when like